Welcome back to the classroom. Come on in. No late pass required. Today, we are going to be continuing our re-reaction of Avatar: The Last Airbender, currently on Season 1, Episode 2, titled The Avatar Returns. Now, as you guys saw in the first video, card in the top right corner over here, Avatar was a very important part of my childhood. And I was so excited to revisit this show, to be able to talk to you guys a little bit more about it, because I never really got to do that. And so being able to look at this from more of, you know, this whole YouTube standpoint is something that I am very much enjoying so far. And it's been nice to be able to kind of revisit some of the ways that this universe kind of started, because without this sort of beginning, we wouldn't have as much as we did with the 3 seasons of this, the 4 seasons of Korra, and all of the different graphic novels, which I have a number of them sitting right to my side right over here, that I have thoroughly enjoyed. And it's just something that is so special, and we didn't even know it when we first started watching this, because, well, how can you know based on the first episode, especially as a kid, that it was going to be such an important and an integral part of your childhood? And so, like, we got to see the introduction of Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, Iroh, and a variety of other side characters already being introduced in this first episode here. Aang has not fully come out and identified himself as the Avatar to everyone else, but it is pretty clear very early on to the audience that he is definitely the Avatar. And we know that because of some of Aang's actions with Katara on the derelict ship that was crashed in the ice, that Zuko now knows exactly where they are and is coming in. So we are about to see the results of that. So without further ado, let's jump right into the episode. Oh man, this intro always just got it super freaking hyped up. We also got a little reveal there of Azula before really anything, before any intro to her. We saw Azula in the intro. And this is when we get the first version of this intro that will be the rest of the show.
Previously on Avatar.
Haha, before they got the Roku voice actor. Having to pretty much re-show like most of the first episode here to recap, because they haven't really had anything else.
More like 100 years.
All right, we see the aftermath here. It's kind of cool that, like, it looks as if like the Fire Nation definitely set traps like afterwards, because I don't necessarily think that the traps would have been set up when the ship was first attacked.
It's my fault.
Aha!
Sokka is not
Away from the enemy.
not the most trusting of individuals.
Don't you see? Aang's brought
Yeah,
us back.
Sokka's the oldest dude there.
Fun.
Otherwise, all the others went off to war, and so
You should try
I guess it
it
makes
sometime.
sense that at that particular moment in time, especially with
Please,
it definitely seeming like this is a little bit more of like a patriarchal society, at least initially, with maybe the exception of Grand here potentially being like an elder. Sokka would probably have the power to banish Aang like that, although it's hard to tell for sure.
Your tribe? Your own family? Let's see your bison fly now, Aaron.
Sokka's
Papa, you can do it.
a little rough around the edges the first couple of episodes. It's not really until like
Thought so.
we see Warriors of Kyoshi that
Don't go, I'll miss
he improves. Everybody thinking that Aang is just a troublemaker, but he's just a kid. He doesn't know any better. He's a kid that was raised in non-war times, and he wants to still try to remain a kid.
You'll feel better.
The Fire Nation could be on our shores any moment now.
But I gotta.
And no thanks.
The freaking pee jokes. I love it. Those kids are freaking adorable. Listen, I think that everybody would benefit from having a
Village.
flying bison. The war paint is really cool. Kind of showing the differences between all of the different like stylizations of armor and weaponry. There's like a lot of culture being shown here, and especially reflective of what we see in the cultures that the Water Tribe and the Fire Nation are based off of. There's some very like reflective aspects of that. And also that is terrifying. And the fact that like Zuko's ship is actually a smaller warship, as we see later on, is also insane. He just got pushed out of the way. Listen, Sokka, nobody can doubt your bravery, at least. Even if it is a little stubborn. This is like one of the only times that we really see Zuko rocking his helmet. And I wonder if it's because he's trying like an intimidation tactic, or if he's thinking that the fight is going to be a lot more intense than it ends up being. Because he thinks that it's like a much older, more fully realized Avatar, when in all honesty it's just Aang.
I know you're hiding him.
Sokka, you're trying your best, buddy. It's not really doing well, though. Zuko's just insulting him at this point. So is the boomerang. The helmet definitely kept him safe from that boomerang. Oh, but the flame daggers are so cool. I love how he uses those throughout the series. Lot of more kid-based humor. But I mean, like I said, I guess that makes sense because like when it first came out, I was like,
Hey, Sokka.
like elementary, middle school type of deal. And as the show went, characters and the tone very much grew with us. And that's not saying that like the show is fully a kids show in the sense that they don't stray away from the
Avatar?
the very sensitive topics in this show. Sokka's feeling like an idiot for banishing the Avatar now. It's cool seeing like the different styles of bending.
If I go with you, will you promise to leave everyone alone?
Head a course to the Fire Nation. I'm going home.
Mm-hmm. Zuko, you don't end up going home for some time, buddy. Aang is already acting the hero even before he's fully accepted that he's the Avatar. I'm still disappointed they never fully released the soundtrack for this show.
Get in. We're going to save your boyfriend.
He's not my...
Whatever.
Oh, already setting that up real early.
You need these. You have a long journey ahead of you.
Yeah, all of a sudden Gran is super supportive.
It's been so long since I've had hope. You both found him for a reason. Now your destinies are intertwined with his.
Yeah, that's saying a lot.
A warship with a canoe.
With very little. Yes.
You just love taking me out of my comfort zone, don't you?
So, I guess you've never fought an airbender before. I bet I could take you both with my hands tied behind my back.
Silence.
Yeah, you underestimate him for the first time, and it's gonna be your mistake. Oh, that's gonna hurt.
Go. Fly. Soar.
Please, Appa. We need your
Sokka leans a whole lot into the sarcasm as the show goes.
Elevate.
Sokka doesn't believe you can fly.
Appa looks so soft.
Kid said.
I would love some Appa snuggles. They would be the best.
Wahoo. He's flying! Katari's! I mean, ideally he's flying.
Sokka's a total nerd. We all know it. Yeah, but we love him for that exact fact. Pulls him down while cutting himself free. That is insane.
My staff.
Yeah, Zuko was waiting for him though. Man, it would be so cool to be a bender of some kind. I was always curious to know, like, what type of bending I would be. I think the only one I know I wouldn't be would be an earthbender. But depending on who I ask, they tell me something different. Oh, jeez, that's gonna hurt. Oh, that is gonna hurt so much. Yeah. It seems like he's kind of insane for doing that, but, you know, as we learn a little bit more about Zuko's character, it definitely starts to make a bit more sense. Oh, that water's gotta be freezing cold. So friggin' cool. Oh, and the music and everything. Also, this ability is just so cool.
Well, that was some water bending.
Sokka, I don't think you're the point expert to determine if that is the case or not. Yeah, in the wrong direction. Certainly helpful.
Hurry up, Sokka!
Just a guy with a boomerang. I didn't ask for all this flying and magic.
Sokka.
Yip yip, yip yip.
Ian Hyros, what the hell? What the hell was that?
Down!
Now, this is something interesting. This right here is the only time in this entire show we see Iroh attack anybody in Team Avatar here. If you watch for the rest of the show, Iroh never once more firebends in their direction.
Dig the ship out and follow them.
Gotta melt them first.
As soon as you're done with that.
Oh, Zuko. You have a long journey ahead of you, just like the rest of these guys do.
Water. Why didn't you tell us you were the Avatar? Because
I never wanted to be. It's the hero's journey. He's trying to deny the call to adventure.
Here, we'll ride the hopping llamas. Then way over here, we'll surf on the backs of giant koi fish. Then back over here, we'll ride the hog monkeys. They don't like people riding them, but that's what makes it fun.
Well, we only end up really getting one of those because they do end up going and riding on the backs of koi fish and whatnot, the giant koi fish. But that's where we also end up getting Warriors of Kyoshi. So looking forward to seeing that when we get to it. So we just finished watching Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1, Episode 2, The Avatar Returns, which was very much more of a part 2 to the series premiere when it first aired. And this kind of just wrapped up a lot of the different introductions that we saw in the very first episode. You know, we see like everybody kind of pushing Aang away. They didn't want him to be there anymore. But then we see that because of, you know, Aang's actions, he endangers the rest of the tribe that Sokka and Katara are from. And as a result, when he goes to defend them, he was basically like, he makes a personal sacrifice. He makes this decision basically to say, like, I need to make up for my mistake, and so I am going to let myself be captured so that the others will be left alone. And so he finally ends up getting taken in, and we see everybody kind of have a very quick change of heart upon realizing that it is none other than the Avatar, because beforehand they just saw him as just this kid. But in this world, the title of Avatar holds just a serious amount of weight, and especially because they're the only person in existence who is able to master all 4 elements. And so it's really important that they are around, because they are more powerful than any singular bender will ever be. And this also means that, like, when we get to a little bit more of the lore of the actual Avatar itself, we come to find out that there's a lot more than just the ability to be able to bend all 4 elements. There's a lot more depth to that, but as of right now, what we've seen is the Avatar is meant to master all 4 elements, and it has this great power where eyes and tattoos start glowing, which we'll later find out a little bit more about, specifically in the next episode, when we visit the Southern Air Temple. But it's interesting to kind of see how they set up a lot of this, and how Aang is underestimated a lot in this show to start off. Basically, with him being a kid, everybody sees him as like, oh, he's just a kid. He's not going to be able to do much of anything. But obviously, as we see, he manages to bob and weave through an entire ship's worth of enemies. Zuko tries his very best to keep up with him, and he does a very good job up until him going into the Avatar state. At which point, yes, of course, he's going to get his ass handed to him very, very quickly. But we see Sokka and Katara kind of going through a bit of growth themselves, especially Sokka basically having the change of heart that, like, all right, I was wrong, bad judge of character, we need to go help him. And Katara is basically on Aang's side the entire time, is like, we have to go and help him. He saved us, now we have to save him. And so, like, we already kind of get to see a little bit of the characterization of all of these different characters. Zuko's just like unhinged obsession with capturing the Avatar so that he can go home. We don't know why as of this moment, but when we come to find out later, so many of his actions here make so much sense. And, you know, it's quite interesting to see, like, the beginning of Zuko's arc, because he goes on one of the best story arcs in all of TV, I would say. He's got one of the most, like, deep characters that I've ever seen in a show, and it's really cool to see the beginnings of that. And obviously a lot of the other characters do a serious amount of growth. We're gonna see a lot from Aang, obviously, because he starts off very young and naive and very innocent, and we know that during wartime that can't possibly last, and so we'll see a little bit more of that. Sokka, while seems to be grown up, he needs to do a lot of growing up himself. He has a very narrow mind of how the world works. Definitely, you know, some pretty thinly veiled sexism that he has going on, that he needs to basically learn that, like, it's not all just about men, that women are just as important. They can be just as strong, just as important, and that's something that, you know, he's gonna have to fight through when he gets to that. And then Katara has this just sense of optimism to her, and her kind of starting to explore her waterbending abilities, which will only continue as the show goes on, because obviously, you know, they're all going to do some growth here. And Katara is another interesting character, because she has this optimism to her despite all of this hardship that she has gone through, and we will get to a lot of the backstory for that hardship. Pretty much every character that we've seen introduced here of like major characters is going to have a pretty significant story arc, and it's going to change a lot from this first episode all the way through to the end. And so very excited to revisit some of those things, especially in the next episode, where like there will be a number of moments where looking back on, I'm like, wow, this is a kids show, because they deal with a lot of heavy topics that many kids shows just do not. They shy away from a lot, and this show leans into it. It doesn't shy away from the fact that there are some messed up things going on in this world. But we will talk a little bit more about that when we get to that episode, because there's a lot to go into with the next episode. We see that Zuko is around to stay. He's going to try to chase him down. And while we do have a goal of both Aang and Katara going to master waterbending while Sokka comes along for the ride, we don't have a fully set like main goal in mind other than mastering the elements. And so that's something that a lot of people might have as criticisms for the beginning of the show. But in all honesty, I like that with the beginning of the show, we take time to really understand who these characters are, because at the end of the day, like, these are all kids, including Zuko. He's a teenager. And so all of them here, like, they have very distinct personalities while still trying to understand who they are as individuals. And so, like, we spend a lot of time getting to know these characters, getting to be familiar with them, and then we get the big main conflict. Obviously, the overarching conflict is end the war by mastering all 4 elements, but how is that going to happen? And so we'll explore that a little bit more as the episodes go on. But what did you think about this? If this is your first time watching through all of these episodes, and you're watching the episode and then coming to see me, first of all, I'm honored, because that's awesome. But if you're watching through it and you're doing this for the first time, what are some theories that you have? What are some things that you expect to maybe see with all of these different characters? What are things that you're hoping to see? Or even what are some things that you notice in this episode that I might have missed? Obviously, I had seen the one part where this is the only episode where Iroh firebends directly at any of the members of Team Avatar here. And so I always found that interesting, that like from this point forward, he doesn't take a stance of aggression towards them, and he just kind of blindly follows Zuko in this instance after, you know, being asleep. But that's one of my more fun facts about this particular episode. But if there were any that I might have missed, please feel free to leave those in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe while you're at it so you don't miss out on any of these re-reactions. It's been fun being able to go back through these shows. I'm so excited. But in the meantime, class, you are officially dismissed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out, everybody.